Hello and welcome to New Game Plus. My name is Donald. I am joined this week by Jason. How are you?
Old school. How you doing? It's been interesting. We're all recovering. We're all trying to rest and trying to get everything because PAX is very recently in our memories, and it was very busy. It was a very busy PAX.
No, like what were your highlights from this year's PAX?
I guess perhaps the best thing about it was the floor plan was different, so we didn't have that awful PC corner where like so many people like just bogged down into that one area, and that made the walking experience awful. But I guess probably the big thing this year was not only just the layout, but also the range of attractions was it's probably been the best PAX since the first one.
Like there was plenty to do. Like they'd expanded so many of the areas. Like just one, for example, like the indie mega booth, PAX Rising has expanded like from being a nice corner in the back until now it's the very first thing you see once you go in, and it's like 40 booths maybe within that.
Yeah, and it was again, it went from that small little corner to basically covered half, and that's not even including the schools, so like Swinney and all the other schools there. So it was amazing to see just how wide and kind of all-encompassing it had become. But I think that's good as well.
And even the communities have just expanded as well. You had the speedrunning people; they were featured like even before the entrance. They got their own special stage. The diversity lounge had expanded as well.
And even like the way they're doing the panels in the panel rooms, like they were all similar to the past, but they were more willing to give these new things a try. We obviously had our panels there as well, which was great to see.
And thank you if you attended our panels.
And so it was really, really interesting to see. But enough talk of what we think of PAX. It's time to talk about what's on the television show from PAX.
Yes, we have some of the best games from ID Xbox. We take a quick look at them.
We do. We've got Girl Geek Academy with an interview with Megs. And then we've also got Matt Kelly waxing lyrical about Densha De Go for 7 minutes, which I am very looking forward to.
I'm surprised it's not just a whole episode of Densha De Go.
Look, if I thought I could get away with it, I absolutely would. But
I'll wait for the holiday special for that one.
The trains only take 7 minutes in Japan, so it makes sense.
But let's just go straight to this PAX Spectacular, or Spaxtacular, if you will.
Don't.
I did it.
Chris, Charla, thank you so much for your time out of the busy schedule, I imagine, at PAX Australia. I guess let's start at the beginning of ID at Xbox. This was a program that was developed, I think, alongside, or a lot of people were kind of made aware of it around the launch of it, or in the lead up to Xbox One launch.
Yeah, exactly.
But obviously that came off the back of Xbox Live Arcade. What were some of the things that kind of led from Xbox Live Arcade to ID at Xbox?
Yeah, so Microsoft really pioneered independent development on console with Xbox Live Arcade, which was originally started, honestly, to help people ship little arcade games. And I was a developer at the time, didn't work for Microsoft, and that's exactly what we shipped, like Joust, Robotron, Defender, like these cool arcade emulations. But the second developers had access to this way to ship games that didn't require discs, didn't require a $60 price point or a high price point, they just took advantage of it. And all of a sudden there were all these really cool games, and then that kind of like really burst into the forefront. And I would say in 2008 was that first summer of arcade where Braid and Castle Crashers shipped, and all of a sudden mainstream audiences knew about indie games, and the indie scene blew up, and it hasn't stopped growing since. And as we were kind of getting towards the launch of Xbox One, or before the launch of Xbox One, we knew that the indie scene was outpacing what we were able to do for them on 360. On Xbox 360, every game needed a publisher. It was kind of like it was a system that had been designed in the early 2000s, and it was just not like, current with what developers wanted. So we went out and did a big listening tour, talked to more than 50 developers, and what we ended up with was the ID at Xbox program. Right. And from our perspectives, from Microsoft's perspective, we knew we needed great independent games to succeed with Xbox One. We knew we needed to offer our players like really broad variety of games, and that meant having great indies. When we talked to independent developers about different things we could do, they were really clear. They were like, look, this scene has grown. We know what we want to do. Like, give us platform access and get out of the way. And we sat back and we're like, yeah, okay, that sounds great. Like, that's exactly right, And so we kind of set this North Star that like the thing we wanted to do was make it easy for developers to ship on Xbox One. We knew if we did that, they'd have a great development experience. They'd bring their games, and we'd see the flowers of that work, in the store. Right. And that's exactly what's happened. We're now getting close to the 1,000th game shipping on Xbox One. Some just tremendous, amazing games are shipped, games we never envisioned back in 2013 or 2014. And, but our North Star hasn't changed at all. Like, we make it easy for developers to ship. We provide this great marketplace. We have an amazing fan base that loves games from independent developers and spends money and buys those games in the store, and it's turned into this really sustainable ecosystem.
So we're here at PAX Australia. There's obviously plenty of focus on some of the bigger titles that have come out on Xbox. Would you mind speaking a little bit to what people have seen on the floor that might have been involved with ID at Xbox specifically, and what the response has been?
Yeah, so we're showing a bunch of games in the Xbox booth that are from ID at Xbox developers. Ashen is going to be shipping later this year, which we're super stoked about, from Aurora 44 over in New Zealand. We're showing Supermarket Shriek, which is a 2-player co-op supermarket cart steering game where you you're in a shopping cart with a goat and you need to like drive it around. Some other games, and we're showing Tunic, which is a super cool game. Yes. And then there's some other games from ID developers that are just on the floor over in the indie area. There's Totem Teller, which is a really, really neat game that we showcased around the E3 time frame, and a couple other games over there that'll be coming on to Xbox. So there's a lot of amazing content here at PAX Australia.
You mentioned Tunic there. I recall it might have been at this E3 or last E3. Tunic was actually part of the E3 press conference within Microsoft. What kind of work goes into the relationship and making sure they're aware of what they're getting themselves into, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. So we, like, one of the really cool things, and I think if you ever had a question about how important independent games are to Xbox, just look at our E3 press conference. To us, that's the most important 90 minutes of the year in terms of sort of setting our agenda for the next year, and it's our biggest stage. And independent games have been a huge part of that ever since we launched Xbox One. I remember a couple of years ago we used to put all the games from ID at Xbox developers together to kind of contextualize them, which I think was cool. But the last couple of years, we haven't done that at all. Like, the games have just stood on their own throughout the press conference. So you mentioned Tunic. Like, last year, we showed a trailer of Tunic. We didn't put the Tunic trailer next to the other games that were from ID developers. Tunic just stood on its own because it's a super cool game. Yeah. And so, to me, that's really cool. It was great when we contextualized them. That was great to help sort of educate people. And now we don't need to anymore. Yeah. Like, we just put cool games out there. One of the things that I think is really important to us in terms of how we run the program is that kind of E3 opportunity, or we have other opportunities around PAXs and GDC, is open to every developer in the program. So there's certain games that we see early on, like a Tunic or like a Cuphead, that we're like, okay, this is awesome. We have to tell the world about this game. And so, of course, they get an opportunity to be at, those kinds of shows, because we just want to show them to the broadest audience possible. But the other thing we do is, before every show, we send an email to all 3,000 developers in the program, and we say, hey, E3 is coming up in however many months. If you're interested in participating, send us a video. And, we get a big group, this whole extended ID team, into a room, like 20 people in a room, watching, videos for 3-4 days of, all the people who, sort of submitting for E3. Yeah. And every year, like, what everybody wants is to see a video and just be like, oh, that's the one. And every year it happens. Right. There's a game that, we had seen earlier and it seemed cool, but it wasn't exactly on our radar. And then we see this video and we're like, okay, this is something special. Let's get a build. And the next thing you know, they're on stage at E3. And unfortunately, we can't include everyone who wants to be on stage with us at E3 in the E3 briefing. It's only so long, but we do make sure that everybody has an equal opportunity to have a chance to get in there.
So I guess looking forward to the future, where do you see the ID at Xbox program going, and where do you see independent development, I guess, going on the Xbox platform as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like, when I look at where the ID at Xbox program is going, I want to say, hopefully it's not going anywhere. Like, our goal, which is to make it easy to ship on Xbox, is really not going to change. It hasn't changed, and I don't see it changing in the future. What is changing is the platform itself. There's always new platform initiatives, things like Xbox Game Preview, which is our early access program, or Xbox Game Pass, which is our membership program where folks can pay like a monthly fee and get access to 100 games to download at no extra cost. And so making sure that those opportunities are there for independent developers is something that we see as like a a crucially important role. You know, if there's changes in hardware, like the Xbox Adaptive Controller or other changes in hardware, new hardware, we want to make sure our developers know about it as soon as they can so they can take advantage of it. And so we'll continue to be that kind of like ambassador for developers inside Microsoft and ambassador, to developers from Xbox to just make sure that we get great games on the platform and that people have great games to play.
Look forward to what comes out of ID at Xbox. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Chris, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I'm here with Sarah Moran talking about Girl Geek Academy, and this interview is really something that's personal to my heart because of my personal experience doing IT and multimedia in high school. Now, for those playing at home, can you please explain a little bit about what Girl Geek Academy is all about and your mission statement?
Great. Girl Geek Academy is aiming to teach 1 million women to build the internet by 2025.
Just casually.
Just,
That's huge.
Yeah, it's a big mission, but as you said, you can relate to it, and a lot of women can. We think that there is easily 1 million women who can relate to our stories, and we're really passionate about giving the next generation that opportunity as well.
Where did that all come from personally? What's your experience in this industry, in the STEM career?
Yeah, so we have 5 co-founders, and we all have such different experiences.
So significant though. You've all come from like crazy backgrounds in gaming, science, maths, tech.
And also marketing, and hustling. So
you're all pieces of the puzzle all fit together.
That's it, and it really helps with our friendship, and it helps us build great, rounded experiences for everybody.
Did you actually start out as friends? How did you meet?
No, we didn't know each other from a bar of soap.
Oh, that's awesome. How did the universe bring you together?
So my co-founder Tammy, we'd all been independently around the game scene, like the games and tech scene for a while.
Sure.
And Tammy wanted to run a hackathon for women.
What's a hackathon?
So a hackathon is where you build a startup over a weekend.
Okay.
So you start on a Friday night, get together with a team, hack away for 48 hours, and by Sunday you need to have built something.
Like a global game jam kind of thing?
Exactly,
I
but
get
for
it.
tech.
Okay.
And so the idea is that you want to build a business or build a piece of tech that, would just be cool to make.
Sure.
Very similar to a game jam, which is hilarious because those worlds rarely overlap.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what everyone contributes to the Girl Geek Academy on a day-to-day basis.
So my co-founder Lacey is a games producer, so she connects us to this games world. Mm-hmm. My co-founder Tammy, her title is a chaos engineer.
Wow.
Which is just the most badass title I've ever heard ever.
I'm in the wrong industry.
Yeah. And so she works out of San Francisco.
Crazy.
And she is she's a gun hacker.
Do you guys do this overseas as well?
A little bit, but the programs look different. So particularly in San Francisco, where there is a highly concentrated tech scene.
Sure.
We take those women out for a cup of teas. We'll gather around and have some tea and bickies. Mm-hmm. And it's just that sort of smaller, give everyone a hug and, check in that they're okay. Mm-hmm. Versus some of the stuff that we have a lot more creative freedom to do in Australia.
Okay.
In Australia, we find that the desire to want to bring about gender equality, particularly in STEM, is really high. In America, there's less of a chance of us building because the culture is
so different.
So different.
Okay.
And so we tried, and it was like if you had something really bad and you made it a little bit less bad, and we're like, but in Australia we can take it from good to great.
Great.
So that's why this will always be our home, even as we expand outside of Australia.
Let's pull it back a little bit. What's your background and what started this all for you?
So for me, I learned to code when I was 5.
Why? How?
Yeah, how, right?
Yeah.
I know. It wasn't my dad, even though that's what a lot of people sort of imagine, is that you must have a nerdy parent.
Totally.
But my dad replaced our computer with an electronic typewriter.
Wow.
So that would show you how much it wasn't him. And for me, we had a teacher who bought a whole classroom full of computers, and that classroom was next to my classroom.
Ah.
And we were allowed to just go in when we wanted and explore that tech. Mm-hmm. And so it was a tiny classroom, and we were tiny children with tiny kids' chairs next to each other.
Right.
So for me, we were almost sitting on top of each other every time we coded. And you'd yell across the room, hey, how'd you do that? So it was always social. So it was a very social, friendship-building activity.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's really resonated with you. That's awesome.
And that's what we recreate.
Right.
So we teach young girls now, ages 5 to 8, and the first thing they do is make a new friend. Because if you're going to be doing pair programming or anything like that, if you're going to get stuck, who are you going to ask for help?
Some people might be too introverted to be like, oh, I'm too embarrassed to ask for help. But if you've got someone sitting next to you being like, yo.
Yeah, hey, so like, how did you do that? You know, and it's all that confidence building too. When someone
definitely
asks you
is.
for help and you know the answer,
Yeah.
amazing.
The reason why this interview is so personal for me is I did multimedia and IT in high school, and I found that I was token female in both classes, but I felt the teachers were both male and they didn't know how to empower me or make me feel like I was part of it, and I just felt like I didn't fit, and they singled me out a lot when I was wrong. And I think that a program like this is an incredible opportunity to really give women the right tools to not be afraid or shy away from something that might be male dominated, but identify what they like about it and amplify that even further.
Well, I had a very similar experience to that at high school. I used to lie to my friends when it was lunchtime and I'd go and code in the computing classroom. I would tell them I was going to choir. And I would, because that was more socially acceptable for some reason than going to the computer room.
Yeah.
And you know, so for me, like, I was embarrassed, but I loved it so much. And so what I realized now as an adult with access to the internet, I'm like, wait a minute. If we were alone at each of our own schools, there's how many schools in Australia? Actually, even if you're the only girl at your school, there's, 10 schools in your area, 100 schools in your region, thousands of schools in your state. When you add them together, that's still a lot of girls.
Agreed. And so I was like, where did you first start out and how did word of mouth start spreading, and when was the first kind of workshop you did in a school environment?
Yeah, so after we'd been running our hackathons and our programs for women, we realised we'd been working a little bit with kids over the years.
How so?
My co-founder Tammy had been a mentor and been bringing some younger women through. But it just dawned on us, I don't know how it didn't occur to us sooner, but we were like, all this work we've been doing for women, if we'd have started mentoring young girls and teaching in schools 10 years ago, we could be hiring them today.
The ripple effect's going to be huge.
It just changed it all for us. And then we got some federal government funding to train teachers in schools on how to teach code in the classroom through our Miss Makes Code program. But the thing is, there's a bit of a lag. One, the curriculum is already full of other things that we learned growing up, and they want to sort of add tech to it. And so we were probably stressing teachers out, thinking that they had to learn. Even though we could onboard them quite easily, how it then gets back into the classroom is a bit challenging. So now we run school holiday programs. We don't have a curriculum. We can do whatever we want.
That's so true. So is it an elective or anything like that for any primary schools? How does it work in the younger demographics?
So we've partnered with NAB, the National Australia Bank, to do cybersecurity for upper primary.
Sure.
So that's something that we've been able to do where we have money and resources to be able to go out to schools and deliver that sort of thing. But to be honest, my heart sits in the school holiday program, weekends and after school, because that's when people opt in.
That's so true. They actually want to be there. They've got an invested interest.
Exactly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and so that's our love. That's something we have fallen in love with. That we sort of did by accident.
What kind of advice would you give to women out there or even young women that want to know more or follow Girl Geek Academy?
Yeah, great. Well, you can go to our website, girlgeekacademy.com. If you fill out a form or drop us an email, it'll be me on the other line. I read all the emails.
That's the best.
Sometimes we pretend like, this is the receptionist, but no, it's me.
You sound like you're an always on kind of gal. Like you're always working all the time.
But it's just so fun, you know? It's not, I'm a big fan of downtime, don't get me wrong. I'm anti-crunch culture.
Good.
But I'm really big on cups of tea. So I guess if there's any young women out there who need a cup of tea, come and have a cup of tea and a bicky.
I love that. Well, I really appreciate your time, Sarah. This interview has been amazing, and I really wish you all the best with your future endeavours.
Thanks, really appreciate it.
Thanks. Cheers.
From the sprawling rail network in Tokyo to the high-speed Shinkansen bullet trains, the impact that trains have had on daily life in Japan is hard to miss. What you might not notice at first, though, is the widespread impact that trains have had on Japanese culture. JR, the country's largest rail operator, regularly collaborates with massive pop culture brands like Pokemon and Detective Conan on awareness campaigns and events. Stamp rallies are especially popular, where passengers travel from station to station to collect stamps and win prizes. Other rail operators like Odakyu and Keio operate shopping malls, hotels, and more. And you can step off just about any train, walk into a department store, and buy its model.
This isn't just reserved for serious hobbyists either. Children can get their hands on toys to recreate the train lines that they ride to school, and even convenience stores will sell the die-cast model of famous trains to tourists. On top of that, brands like Evangelion and Hello Kitty have had entire train skins designed as promotions. Takara Tomy also recently produced an anime series based on the world of Japanese rail, featuring Shinkansens that transform into giant robots and fight monsters, in amongst an incredibly accurate depiction of Tokyo Rail. Train culture runs thick in Japan, and I love it. This is exemplified no better than in Densha to Go, the train driving arcade game which debuted in 1996. With over 20 releases across arcades and nearly every major console, the series has focused on accessible fun rather than the drive realism of Western train sims. Densha to Go, or Go by Train in English, has covered everything from the infamous Yamanote loop line to smaller train and tram systems throughout Japan. Densha to Go burst back into the gaming scene in 2017 with one of the biggest and most complex arcade cabinets ever produced. With 4 screens, surround sound, touch controls and replicas of real driving controls, Densha to Go once again captured the thrill of trains for serious rail fans, casual players and children. This iteration covers the Tokyo Yamanote and Shuei lines and has recently been updated to include the Osaka Loop line. Ironically, the prior game to what you just saw was titled Densha to Go Final, a nod to the fact that developers felt the series was over. Clearly Japan wasn't done with it though, and new technology was put to work in such a way that delivers gameplay like no other. And looking around Japan, you can see why people wanted more. Not only does the series click with a lot of other things going on, its accurate depictions of locations allow people to explore them in brand new ways. With the series now under the wing of Square Enix, and increasing interest in new arcade experiences using the latest technology, and a strong live update system, it's going to be exciting to see what happens with the series next.
Now the thing you got to understand, and this is Densha to Go. Okay, at the best of times, I like the tedious crap that video games pull. Like,
Well, we'll find that out next week.
yeah, okay, well done. But Densha to Go is just so unique in the fact that it is really, especially the arcade one. So obviously the one at home, it's nice and you've got the levers and all that kind of stuff. But literally all it is driving a train. And so you've got this the 3D soundscape. You've got like all the speakers in different spots. In this one, you've got the touch screen, so you slide it across and you do the points and you check. If anything, it is a testament to just what people can get out of video games, that other people are going to think this is the stupidest fucking crap I have ever seen in my life, and yet it is probably my favorite arcade game in Japan at the moment.
But gaming has become so big and the player base so diverse that even the most seemingly weird niches can find their own specialty in the game. As in, we're getting big fancy press releases for Farming Simulator. JB Hi-Fi are doing massive promotional deals with them, and we're also, and just the world of Steam. You've got the various trucking simulators. Yes. You've got wood cutting simulator. You've got like middle management simulator if you're so keen.
And I mean, and again, this is the Japan market summed up always. You know, I mean, you could survive on selling 100,000 copies, you know what I mean? And that was where a lot of these kind of diverse games that Japan are known for a thing. And obviously we have the big titles that came over and became successes and became worldwide successes. So it's not surprising that Densha to Go obviously never got translated into English, because who in English is buying it? But
wow.
Look, that aside, extra baggage charges aside, like it is great to see that those niches still exist and it's fulfilled by something quite as extravagant as the arcade Densha to Go.
Well, I'm hoping you at home have found this little nugget of Japanese gaming culture just very interesting. In the meantime, thank you very much for joining us this week on New Game Plus. If you like our videos, go to our website at www.newgameplus.tv.
Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, New Game Plus TV.
Yep. Well, in the meantime, thank you very much for joining me, Jason.
Thank you, Don.
And we'll see you next week.